I never do it when we do it. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we can start now. Hi, everyone. My name is Adela Hurtado, and I'm with Viva La Animación. We started in May of 2024, and we're just here to support Latin community and animation. And we've just been doing these panels, etc., for every month now on a different topic. And this month we have Perry Esparza. Hey, hi, Emmy. Hi, everyone. Oh, that's so awesome. And you can say where you're from in the chat, and we'll be getting more people coming in soon. But yeah, we've been doing this every month, and we have this month Perry Esparza, who's kind of an old friend of mine, but I only recently found out about his life journey to becoming what he is now, which is really awesome. And he successfully pitched, his project, Awesome Mecha, recently, and really happened for him. Got top prizes, everything. And so he'll be talking about that journey and from his personal projects to where it's brought him to now. So thank you so much, Perry, for doing this, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I've met Adela about a while back, so it's interesting to see our journeys progress through our time in the animation industry. So thank you all for being here, and I'm gonna start sharing my presentation. Just a heads up, two things. When I get excited, I talk very fast, and sometimes I give soccer references, so I apologize for that because I don't know, a lot of people don't watch soccer. So welcome everyone. Welcome to my small talk here. I'm Perry Esparza, as how Adela presented me. And you might be asking, who is this guy? Who am I? Well, that's a question I ask myself every day in the mirror. But we're going to start asking with the hard facts, which is I'm a production assistant at Nickelodeon. I am the creator of Mecha and the 2024 Ideatoon winner for Best Project in Development. And I'm also director and co-creator of FARO, Puerto Creative, which is a topic we'll talk about it in a minute. And this talk, I wanted to give this talk because my whole career is based on personal projects. And I will be talking about 3 specific projects that I think helped me get to where I am. The first one is a meme page. I'll get more into that. The second one is a pitch deck, a presentation I wrote during COVID, and an initiative I've been working for the past maybe 5 years. It was 2019 when we first had the idea, so it's been a long time since then. I'll touch through 3 topics: the process, what I learned while doing these projects, and the door they opened. Because sometimes these personal projects, because people like it, they open other doors. And well, how from running a meme and this story basically is going to be like how running a meme page eventually was the first domino to fall into my career in animation, into winning Ideatoon, and also working at Nickelodeon. The first thing I want to mention is this Facebook page called Una página que te avisa que no se te olvide tu termo de agua, which was basically a school project for us to incentivize the use of reusable bottles in our college. It was supposed to be a 1-week assignment, but I continued doing it because I thought it was funny. I like memes a lot in that time. But I remember, like the first month of posting every day, and I would get maybe 1 like, maybe 2 likes, maybe 3 likes, but eventually one of my memes went viral, and then by 6 months in, I reached 132,000 likes, which is crazy because I've never pictured that many people, and let alone enjoying what I do. And it was really a really fun page because I would get to do basically whatever I want because there was nobody to tell me that I couldn't do it. So I used everything in my power. I use the power of memes. You got the Nacho Libre meme, you got the Lilo and Stitch, the Creationist, 31 Minutos was a huge part of it. And here's where I was able to unconsciously understand the creative process, because at this point, I've never had a project where I am the one calling the shots and everything's coming out of my head. So it was really, interesting to see how not my personality, but my way of work and thinking was developed through this project. It got so popular that I got myself a reusable battle costume for Halloween, and then I threw a party with it. I thought it was pretty cool. It doesn't say USA, it says USA in Espanol, which means use. But you know, it is what it is. And here in my left is, well, because my memes were so funny, um, one marketing firm reached out to me and they were asking like, hey, do you want to do an internship with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I worked with in quantum marketing as a creative intern, and that helped me a lot because it helped in this internship specifically. First, to give me the ability, not the ability, but I learned the ability to create calendars and stick to it. But it also like helped. I was paired with a really cool creative person named Wally Abadia. Um, and he basically taught me how to think, how to, it's okay to have an idea, but it's better if you have a concept for, you know. And now because of this meme page, I was able to get an internship that eventually will help me also first build a resume, but also shape the way I generate and create ideas, which will later be used, I'll use, you know, and in the rest of my projects. And well, leaving the meme page behind, even though I would like to talk about it for a while. In animation, Tijuana is known for three things. The first one is that episode from The Simpsons when like Krusty takes the kids to TJ. I don't know, I've never seen it, but it's always referenced. And then we have the It couple, Jorge Gutierrez and Sandra Kiwa, and which I greatly admire. And one studio that will remain unnamed because I hate them. Why do I hate them? Because Tijuana is a really small city. And I reached out to them maybe once or twice to be like, hey guys, I want to be in an animation. Oh, first of all, I'm a graphic design major. And there's barely any schools. Well, when I started studying, there was barely any schools in animation. So I was like, hey guys, I want to be in animation. Could you, you know, could I do internships? Do you have courses I could take, whatever, this and that? And they never responded. And then I went to the studio and they kicked me. They didn't kick me out, but basically sent the guard over to like, hey kid, you're to beat it. And I was really pissed about it because like, there's no one here. There's barely animation. Why are you kicking out the people that are, you know, trying to make something out of it? And I'll continue this story later. At this point in my life, I had two great, you know, I want achievements or projects, which is the meme page and my internship in quantum. But I also tried with my generation, with my class in college, to create three different like animations or short stories. And the first one died, the second one died, and the third one died. Like we were not able to finish them. And I was really I was the one leading those projects, and because they died, I don't, how to say, they didn't die because of me, but I was, you know, I felt a responsibility because I was at the head of it. And you know, Jorge has these great stories of how his, you know, pitches get killed by, you know, in a fight between the studios and him, and like, you're not gonna take him, and the studio's like, no, we're gonna take your idea, and he's like, no, and then he charged into battle. Where my ideas at that moment were more like pollitos de colores, which in Mexican traditional, like, you know, festivities, they will sell you these chickens and they will die in a week because that's why they do. I don't know, it's pretty sad. But my ideas were basically that they didn't last more than like a week or a month. So for me, I was like, you know what, this is gonna change. I'm gonna do a project and it's gonna be so cool and it's gonna change my life. No, not gonna change my life forever, but it's gonna prove to myself that I can do what I put my mind to it. So, and it's gonna come out April 2020, and 2020 is gonna be my year, and nothing's gonna stop me. But then COVID happened, and I fell into a depression. It all came tumbling down. Like I was in my lowest point. I was like, you know what? This sucks, dude. You know, like I'm halfway through college. I have no prospects. I realized at that time like I didn't want to be in marketing, because I didn't enjoy it. And for me, it was being cooked up, you know, in my room without getting out. I really enjoy spending time with my friends, and that was taking out of me. So it was the end of Perry. I just want to say this image was done by the Perry was done by Valentino. I did the rest. Um, and it was pretty hard, you know. At that point, nobody aside from like that marketing studio, nobody has reached out to me to be part of our project. Nobody was like, hey dude, let's do something together, or I had any luck in animation. So I was like, you know what, there's two paths in front of me right now. I could stay the same and hope that somebody will, feel pity of me and probably uh want to start a project with me or something. Or I could actually start putting all the pieces together myself and start building where I want to be. And maybe in the future, maybe, because at this time, being in the animation industry for me at that point was like so far away as like I'm being an astronaut, like if they tell you as a kid, hey kid, you're gonna be an astronaut, you're gonna be like, yeah, that'll probably be cool, but what's the chances that's gonna happen? That was the same for me for animation. So out of this like depression and wanting to do more with my life, I came up with two ideas that evolved into these projects. One was FARO, and the other one was Mecha. And for example, this is and FARO was basically what I dreamed I have while going into college. This is the posters for the latest edition we had, which was last year. And I really like them. These were designed by two students, one named Aranza and the other one named Regina, which they're good friends of mine, and I really like their work. So what is FARO basically? So I came up with a bunch of group of friends, and I was like, hey dude, like there's nothing going on here in animation. I think from my class, we were 20 students. Out of those 20, 12 we wanted to be in animation. But again, at that point, there was only one studio, and only one was working there. And I was like, you know what? We're gonna make an event. We're gonna make an event of animation, and we're gonna bring people from animation to us, and we're gonna get inspired, and we're gonna learn from them, and we're gonna connect with people from the region, so we can also start working together. And basically that's what happened. We ran the first event. We brought students. It was 2021, so there was a lot of like COVID restrictions and whatnot. But it basically put the seeds of like what if I want FARO to eventually become. And for example, we will bring people to give us talks, to talk about their experiences, to give them talleres, courses, and basically put the students and the emerging artists to their level in the way of like, I didn't want to bring big names that it's gonna be like, oh yeah, I went to CalArts and then I met somebody and then somebody got me to the studio. I wanted somebody to be like, hey, well, so I went to community college and then I moved to the States, or maybe I worked in animation 10 years and then I worked in a studio and then that got me somewhere else and now I have a career. More like attainable, you know, uh, destinations that, instead of like bringing big names that have other means of getting into animation. So this was the people that came the first year. As you can see, it's mostly people from my school. But 2 years later we did another one and the crew get bigger. And I remember telling my friends that I'm like, yes, it's a lot of work, there's a lot of doubt while doing this. And but if one of these kids or like students or college or artists manage to get something out of this, to start a career, to start something because they went to this event, because they felt inspired, for me, it would have been like worth it, because we had nothing before this. And now they at least have something to get their first glimpse of what the industry could be. My goal for this is also to like create a community, and like a tight community, the same way we see Viva La Animación, the same way we see Asians in animation and Latinx in animation. I want this to be that over there, and for the people from the region, like, and let's build together, let's work together, because there's, so much we can do. All of these people want to be in animation, but there's barely any opportunity, so we have to build our own. And for those who don't know, FARO means lighthouse. And in this concept, this lighthouse was meant to be a port where you don't know where you're going after college, so you come here, you recharge batteries, you talk to your peers, and then you set sail again. And but also it served for me conceptually, was a second meaning, in the way of like, if they don't want to look at us at what we're doing, we're going to build a FARO, and they're going to look at us because they don't have another option, because of all the work I hope we put out. So it's a slowly growing community, and it's getting there, hopefully. And well, I look back to this. So what did it get me? Um, let me find the right word. It's not unrelated, but indirectly, it got me first. It helped me beef up my resume. Understanding like sorry, it helped me like when with because when you're in college, um, it's really hard to get a resume going because like experience. Well, I worked one summer with my dad, 5 years ago, and that's it. You know, that's the all your experience. But the cool thing about personal projects is that you can put your experience running whatever you want to do. It could be like, oh, maybe I did a taco stand, you know, for like as a personal project for, you know, for a culinary class. But the way you can picture it is like, oh, I led a team of 3 people and we put out 5 different, you know, 5 different dishes throughout the whole day and we get all these results. That's the way you use your personal projects into beefing up your resume. So when you apply to studios, they're like, oh, this guy has like experience here. And this is mostly for production. Artworks, I know it works a bit different, but it's again like if they see your personal projects, if they see that you draw every day, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna develop a show just for fun, they're gonna be able to see what you do. I don't remember if it was Jorge or Guillermo del Toro that was like, nobody's gonna hire a chef that they don't know what they cook. You know, like you can tell you can tell somebody like, hey, hire me, and then you're gonna ask them, what do you do? And then the person's gonna be like, well, you have to hire me first so I can show you what I cook. And restaurants don't work like that. So put out your work out there, and eventually it will come. And the same thing with Skydance. I remember applying. I applied to the job and everything. And years later, I got to talk to this manager, to the one of the supervisors that was in the team that hired me, and told me like, at the end of the day, we also like that you want to support back your community, support back the work you're doing. And again, I don't know if it was for FARO, would have, you know, opened myself to that experience of like trying to build a community, try to build something that would got me the job at Skydance. So everything I've done so far unexpectedly opened me doors to better opportunities or different opportunities, which I wouldn't have if I didn't start with this project. And well, now we're getting to the Asumecha part of it, the show that you know, it's a long story. So what is it, Asumecha? I'm gonna give you guys the brief like log line, which is in a world of recycled technology, 2 kids with clashing personalities must learn and work together to pilot the Olmeca, an ancient robotic defender, when their best friend gets taken by interdimensional monsters. So it's basically these 2 kids that effing hate each other. They can't stand each other, but their best friend, the one thing that puts them together, that like makes them get along, it's gone. So will these 2 kids put aside their like their differences, you know, to pilot this giant robot? It's called the Olmeca. Um, and this is one of the images Valentino Lasso made for the show. And it was basically what I wanted to portray, which is like a sense of adventure. The story is not set in Latin America, but it's inspired by, you know, I grew up watching Avatar. I grew up watching, you know, Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, and they always, you know, for example, at least Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man, they'll always happen in New York City. They always happen in the biggest city in the States, and there's barely any no, I want to say representation, but like there's barely any chance to show a different city, you know, like with Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, and like maybe Avengers, you get everything, like you get the whole New York City mapped out. And I was like, what if I tell a story here in my house, like in where I come from? So that's basically what started with the show. I first starting asking myself questions. If I was meant to do a show, how would I do it? What would I want to tell? Where it's gonna take place? So I use my experiences developing brands while being a graphic designer to develop the show too. Um, and it wasn't like an idea from the like one day from day to morning to the next day. It was at least 2 years, 3 years of like crafting the story, crafting the characters. Like I remember spending like 6 months developing the backstory of the characters, and in the world I built it in 1 hour, like in like maybe 2 hours, because like at that point I knew what my characters wanted to be. Now I have to come up with a, you know, a fun world you want to be inspired by. And again, it's using your references, using what you like, and putting it together, basically putting it in a blender, shaking it, and see what's comes out of it. Hopefully I have friends along the way like Ro and Luigi and Valentino that helped me put a face to this, because I don't know how to draw. Okay, I draw as good as a 5-year-old with two left hands. So but I know how to write. I did a lot of creative writing, so I got together with friends, and eventually through the past like maybe 3 or 4 years, slowly carve the story out, why the characters do what they do, why the world looks like it does, and eventually uh, I applied to Pixelatl. Um, well, the process. Well, I'll apply. I applied to Pixelatl. I'm gonna still talk about the process. Putting stuff together. Sometimes I blank out. So, putting the process of it. Okay. So I don't know how to draw, but I do enjoy building not style frames. That's for graphic design. Mood boards. Mood boards is basically when you take references from real world. This is something I learned at Skydance, because over there they use kind of like Pixar. They use real world references when they're building their movies. And that's what I did. I looked back and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take references from maybe the Mixteco culture and the Olmeca culture and the Maya culture. And then I'm gonna look at the Cacaxla murals, which are the last like murals to still have like paint on it. And then I'm gonna talk to my friend Luigi, who's really good at doing mechs, and I'm gonna tell him what I want this to be. I'm gonna show it in his mood board, and I'm gonna be like, but if we're working together, it's because I really like you, and I know you have something. Uh, I know you see what I see. But I think for me, that's one of the uh first things I look in people when I work with them is like to that they see what I see, I don't have to explain references. I don't have to explain a lot of things, because some of this stuff I think it's too, personal. Like if you don't get it, then it's gonna take a second to get it. And that's how I like to work. And then because of this, that's how the Olmeca was born. It obviously went through a lot of iterations, it went to a lot of shapes and figures and all that stuff. But it's part of the creative process. um and again, it took me maybe 3 years of writing and rewriting, and to get to the point where I applied with my pitch to Pixelatl. But I'm gonna talk more about it with oh look, the Olmeca is pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. I like the side stepper too. But what I like about the Olmeca, what I was looking for it is like I want it to look Mexican, but it's not like an Olmec head on top of like a robot body. No, like I want it to look cool. And this is what came out. And I think it's one of the coolest mechs I've ever seen in my entire life. I might be biased. And the validation. I've seen a lot of this throughout artists in the way of like, I don't want to show my work until it's ready. I don't want to put it out until it's perfect. And if I have an advice for that, it's like, first of all, it will never be ready, and second, it will never be perfect. Why? Because art is subjective, and art is constantly changing because you are constantly changing. When the first time I wrote a pitch, I finished it, and then I showed it to my friends, and they were like, "Hey, I like this. Why does this happen?" And then that gives me like more ideas to think about it. And then I rewrote the pitch, and then I sent it to a bunch of friends that haven't read it, and asked them for their opinion. And that was like my first like year, 2 years, like back and forth with my friends, like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think this character should be? How this character should behave? But then when I started applying to Pixelatl, I started reaching out to people in the industry I knew, because by that time I think I was already at Mighty and probably also at Skydance. And one time I reached out to this artist, Made Terrino, and because I think she won Me the Future. And I was like, "Hey, Made, let me know what you think. Send me your notes." And she was like, like 2 weeks later, she was like, "Hey, this is pretty cool, but you're telling me a lot of stuff. You're saying a lot of stuff without telling me anything." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" So it helped me now that I have more like professional, like people have somebody that already done this opinions of it. It helped me understand. Oh, and I try not to take feedback personally because they're not doing it to say something bad about you. It's about they like the project and they want it also to be for your project to be out. So they're gonna give you their honest opinion. And it's up to you how you take it and how you process that. And it could either be into like, okay, let's see why it's not working and how we move forward. So again, it was another year of pitching, showing to friends, showing to people around the studio. And in the first year I submitted to Pixelatl, I got rejected. Like I didn't even, I think at that point they were still taking 20 entries. I think almost 300 people apply almost each year, and 20 gets okay. Sorry, context. Pixelatl, it's an event in Mexico that I highly recommend you should go because it gets you closer to people in the industry, and that's what you want. You want to be closer to the people that can hire you. And but they also run a separate like contest called Ideatoon, and Ideatoon is a a pitch idea where you can submit your idea, and if you win, depending on the year, you get different kinds of prizes. Sometimes they take you to LA to pitch your show. Sometimes they give you tickets to go to Ventana Sur, which is basically a Pixelatl but in Uruguay. Um, and I've been applying for at least 2 years before. I think 1 year before I won. Um, and again, 300 projects get submitted, 20 get selected. Out of those 20, there's a second round, and they cut 10, and those 10 get to pitch their ideas in the I don't want to call it like the real contest. It's more like a liguilla. It's more of a like a finals, a final four. What in this case is 10. And the first year, I think at this point I got the chance to, because it's been a long time. It's been a long time. It's been very interesting times. I think at this point I was able to pitch to Nickelodeon. I was already in Nickelodeon. After my first year at Pixelatl, I met the recruiter from Nickelodeon that eventually led to my job working at Ninja Turtles. And throughout the year, I would go to meetings and all that stuff. So I got to meet some people at the studio, and one of them was like, "Hey, do you want to pitch here?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I remember they gave me a guide, which was the same one they gave out during the Intergalactic Shorts program. So I applied. I pitched with a 10-page pitch. It didn't get picked up. They liked it, but it didn't get picked up, which is fine. Now I can say I pitched on Nickelodeon, which I think is pretty cool. But it was this 10-page pitch. I was like, if this is good enough to pitch to Nickelodeon, it should be good enough for Pixelatl. So I did. I sent it, and I didn't get selected. I remember when I got the news, I was like, I'm gonna feel bad, maybe for the weekend, but then I'm gonna move forward and I'm gonna continue working. Always give yourself time to feel sad. I think it's part of, art and creation. And then, you know, we got the news on Friday, and on Monday I was working already in a different version. This time around, I was in a studio that was specialized in series, which is Nickelodeon. So I would show my pitch whoever was interested in. If there was a PA from my show that wanted to see it, I will pitch it to them. If there's somebody from like the SpongeBob, I would pitch it to them, and I will ask for their feedback. Feedback is really important because you get invested so much in your own project, yet that you don't see what it's missing, because like everything from the inside out, that maybe you'll forget, oh yeah, and they're brothers. No, they're not siblings. This is a joke. But they don't know it, so it helps you also to keep, I don't want to say humble, but in a way of like, oh yes, you have to simplify it and make for them to understand it, because if you don't, then your story gets too convoluted and nobody's gonna pay attention. So yeah, I got the opportunity to move my project over here, show it to people, ask for advice. What should I do? What shouldn't do? And I remember one day, um, I was I was gonna submit, let's say on Friday, and on Thursday I met with another friend called Arti through Zoom, and basically he just basically gave me a color theory like lesson, like 101, and that somehow made my brain work differently, and it clicked. Um, and I rewrote. No, I didn't rewrote, but I was gonna submit. If the first pitch was 10 pages, I was gonna do 15 pages this year. But instead of that, I was like, you know what? So this is a PG-13 conversation, so I am allowed one bad word. So I said, fuck it, I'm gonna rewrite everything. And I rewrote a 13-page script, not script, but like pitch deck into a 50-page pitch deck. And parenthesis here, everybody tells you your pitch deck should be like maybe 10 to 15 pages. Pixelatl asks you to give like maybe 7. And I was like, you know what? You guys are gonna see the whole enchilada. And I wrote and I put everything on it. Everything that I thought it was how to say this, important to the story. I have a B plot and a C plot. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter to the story I want to tell right now. So I'm gonna take it out. And I take out the C plot, the B plot, and I explain the A plot in all its glory. I put the images, all the art we developed. Um, at this point, also, my friend Jackson, he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna take a class in storyboarding. Can I use your characters?" And I'm like, "Dude, if you use my characters, I'll take you to lunch." And so he did, and he come out with a with storyboard that I eventually put in the pitch deck that I submitted to Pixelatl at the end. And I think that also helped a lot because it made the project feel real. Um, and well, I submitted my project and it got selected. I was at the movies. I was watching Didi, the Chinese movie. I think it's pretty good. You should watch it. I couldn't finish the movie because I was so excited that I stepped out. And then now everything that I've been working for the past 3 years, what started it didn't start as a joke, but the first thing that came to my mind working in this show was the title, which is Asumecha, and then everything else developed after it. And I was like, what if I apply? What if I try? What if I do stuff? And now, 3 years later, it's all real. Now there's a chance. Now there I can win. Now I was like, there's not gonna be another opportunity for me like this. So I better make worth it. So for the next year, for the next month, sorry, I will reach out to other Ideatoon winners and like finalists, and I will talk to them. And I'm like, hey, how was your experience? Hey, what do you think about this? Do you want to read my pitch? Can you give me notes? And again, feedback from them. And once they were like, hey, maybe you should start with a question. Maybe you should make it shorter. Hey, don't focus on this. Don't focus on that. Um, so um that helped me a lot, helped me understand what I was trying to accomplish, what I was trying to say. And I'm gonna jump now into the pitching of it. I'm gonna
By
start
the way,
sharing.
by the way, Perry, how long is Asumeka? Like, is it like a series or a film or how long is
um if producers are watching, I want this to be a series, but I'm not close to being a movie. Because I think, I don't know, I'm still debating, but at least the show it's gonna be, and it's gonna be so cool that hopefully it's gonna play out. Well, I'm gonna continue sharing because I get distracted with people. Uh, and so I get to Guadalajara where Pixelatl takes place. Gonna change the image. Oh, that's me winning. Spoilers. Uh, I I go I go to Guadalajara where Pixelatl takes place, and I have my first in-person pitching, and I blanked out. I've been practicing for a month. I wrote the thing, and then I stand up in front of the person, and I forgot what to say. What is funnier is that I forget where I the part I forgot is the one I was talking about my life and how I relate to the show I'm doing. So yeah, I think it was like really, really stupid in my part. But at the end, I pulled through, and the person that was like, giving notes was like, hey, maybe you should memorize it. I'm like, I can't do it. It's hard for me for that. So for the next 2 days, I was pitching and practicing with my friends again, pitching, practice. And then I showed it again to one of my friends, and he was like, dude, there's no storytelling in your pitch. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? And he's like, first of all, you're pitching a show about called Mecha, and there's not a single slide that contains the robot alone. And I'm like, well, you're right. So on the day before I pitched, I rewrote the whole thing again, and I memorized it. I don't know how I did it. I'll be honest. I don't know how the effing I did it. So the next day happens. And it was I get really nervous. I get really nervous like before the kickoff, before giving a presentation, before an interview. And parenthesis here, what I like to do is listen to the same song. It's like 5 minutes. It's all the things that I've done from the Killers. It's a 4 minute song, so I play it 5 minutes before, and it helps me like understand what I'm doing and relax. And that's a good advice I give to you. If you're nervous. Um, so I have to pitch 10 times back to back in the span of 2 hours. That was the actual final like pitching contest. And it started. I pitched the first time, and it went really well. And they asked me questions, so I was making sure to show it, to talk about that in the next one. The second pitch goes through, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. The sixth one, I think I did it in Spanish because for a second I forgot the pitch, so I just switched to Spanish and pitched it. But I want to talk about something which is like, um I again, circling back to putting yourself out there to your project. Um that in the morning of that day, I got a lot of messages from my friends and from my family and from the people that work in the show, that were like, hey, good luck, we believe in you, and there was this commercial from the World Cup 2 years ago, and one of the players goes, it's only the way of a nation. So for me getting all these messages, I'm like, shit, like everybody's counting on me, everybody's cheering for me. Everybody already played their part. Ro with the designs, Luigi with El Mecha, Valentino and Aurora, and I can't think of the rest of the people right now, but they're still in my heart. They all delivered. They'll deliver their piece. Now it's up to me to present. And I would have like really, really, I would end up really, really bummed out if I lost because I wasn't prepared enough. So that was also like a part of the weight of like, doing these kinds of projects. It's like, it's not only my work that is not being like, I don't know, celebrated or or put out there. Is the work of the people that's behind me, in my shoulders too. So it's about also having, faith in what you're doing and the work you're putting out, that it's gonna take you to the other side. So for me, everything it's a game until it isn't, unfortunately. But it's part of creating, being faithful to what you are. And well, I pitch and again. And by the time the 10 pitch ended, I looked at myself and I was like, if I don't win today, I am really happy with the outcome of this. I am really proud of all the work we put out, because for me, could have gone any better. The art was amazing. The presentation was pretty good, but like the writing and everything was on point. And if I don't win, it's because they're looking for something else, and maybe they don't. Somebody else has a better chance for that. Um, and I was like, at this point, for me, winning Pixelatl, um, wasn't how do I say this? Like, it didn't mean, if I lost Pixelatl, it didn't mean that Asumecha was gonna die too. And if I won, the only difference was like, if I didn't win it, it's like Pixelar's Asumecha is gonna take a second to get made, instead of like with the money. And so the last Saturday comes in, and how to say this? They give all the awards. I was so nervous. I was about to like jump from like the highest building in Guadalajara. And they present on mención honorífica, which is uh I don't know the word. And then they present the second place, which won Ventana Sur, and what they won with Foldara. And then they go, now we're gonna give it, after much deliberation, to a really ambitious show. And when they said ambitious, I was like, oh crap, I think it's gonna be me. And they say, hey, Mecha, and I was like, holy shit, dude. I didn't thought I was gonna win. Um, and for me, it was like a culmination of a lot of things. My first year at Pixelatl, I didn't knew anyone, dude. Like I would sit alone, like I would make friends in the lines with other people. I will talk to whoever was in front of me. Um, and eventually now I'm here at the front stage of the whole Pixelatl thing, and I'm winning a prize, their biggest prize after, again, being coming to the industry alone. And I don't want to say alone, but like at that point, in that event, how do I say this, like eventually, like in that event, I was. But in for example, in this one, in this picture, yeah, it's only me and Luigi, but my friend Danny was there, Rosa, Valentino, like all the people I've met throughout my years of working in the industry and reaching out to them and talking to them. They were there, and it was like a really an amazing experience. And again, it all started when one day I was like, hey, what if I wrote a show? I think it would be fun, no? And I would, for example, I will talk to Luigi, and I was like, hey, dude, I have this idea for a show. I'll pay you. Let me know how much is it. And he heard the story, he loved it, and he was like, no, let's do it together. Same with Ro. Ro was the first one to trust, to believe in this project. Um, I think they probably have more doubts than I did. I think to work in personal projects, you have to be a bit delusional, a bit delulu, because you don't know what the outcome is gonna be. You only have to hope. So it's been a crazy journey learning how to write. And why do I say learning how to write? Because English is not my first language. Um, so all my thinking is done in Spanish. So getting to translating that into like English, and then writing in a coherent way that makes sense to English speaker, not only to the people, everybody else. That was also part of it. And also learning about Save the Cat and story and all this and the characters and all that. So that was part of it too. I had to reinvent myself, which I'm gonna talk, I think, in a second. And instead of a look back of what it got me, I'm gonna talk about the look inside. Like, because of this project, I've learned a lot about myself. Hey, maybe writing is for me. And also every day the question, who am I, what I want the show to be, is like present in my life. And not because I don't know who I am, but it's like I want the show to be unique. I want the show to be its own thing. um and that can only be if you have your own references, like I don't want the show to be Mexican Evangelion. I don't want the show to be, the Mexican version of something else. I want this show to be Asumecha, and that's it. So that only, for me, that's only can be attained through, finding references in real life world. I've been traveling a lot, and understanding what makes Mexico and Tijuana so unique. um and I've talked to a lot of people. I sit and watch movies I never thought I will be watching. Watch shows. I like to talk to people from all over, to see their perspective in the world and how it differs to mine, and create something fun out of it. So it's been a lot of, like, it opened a door into myself, basically. And right now it's the show. It's helped me get to meet a lot of people. Right now it's I want a prize to get a small budget to fund they told me to fund the pilot, but I think I'm gonna do a bit more than that. I don't think I'm gonna do a pilot per se, like a full pilot. I think I'm gonna do like a teaser pilot, what they call it, and then I'm gonna develop a tool cell, basically, to move the project into like something that can be like generate an audience, a community, and all that stuff. Um, because that's how you get shows made today. Like, you usually try to uh hope it goes viral, and if it goes viral, you're set. If not, you gotta keep trying. And before I finish my talk, I also want to talk about two projects that are basically started as personal projects. The first one is Carla and Adrian with Colaval. If I remember the story correctly, Carla went to Adrian and she was like, "Hey, dude, I have 3 drawings. Do you want to write a movie about this so we can apply to Ventana Sur and see what happens?" And in 2 weeks, they wrote, I think, a spec or a script, and they sent it and they applied and they got selected for the Mia sponsorships or something in Annecy. So out of like a hey dude, do you think this is cool? It eventually like catapulted them into being in all of the animation circles. Because of Colaval, they have been to Annecy, to Premios Quirino, to Pixelatl, Ventana Sur, to all these like animation places that usually are meant for like people with like a stylish career. But basically they started with that. And what I really like about the story is like they just did it, like they just applied with a pitch, they just applied with an idea, and it's really remarkable all the work they have been putting out because of it. I think right now they got selected as for the Annecy internships, which is like 3 months something in France. And again, it all started because of their personal projects, because of one, they had an idea and they saw it through all the way. And then I wanna also mention Studio Heartbreak. I think you probably heard of this one. Their words, not mine. It's about gay mermaids. Which is, I think, where I find it really interesting is like, if I remember the story correctly, there were a bunch of students from a lot of animation school that couldn't get job into Disney or like DreamWorks or something, and they wanted something more stable. So they got together and they did an animatic, which is The Lovers, I think. And they put it on Twitter, and their Kickstarter got $400,000 in 45 days for backing. So, and again, these are like a bunch of, I don't know if they're kids, but there's a bunch of like artists that they were like, you know what, let's do something together, let's work together, let's try to make something nobody else can do. And they did it, and it's working out for them. So again, personal projects, when there's no job, like that's the thing that's going to keep you moving forward. And also, again, with personal projects, it's like nobody's going to go into your room and be like, hey dude, you can't do that. So that's a cool thing about personal projects. And with this, to and start wrapping up my presentation, I just want to give some advices to that I've learned through my projects, which, and like, here it is. The first one is have fun, or los golpeo con mi termo. This is a 31 minutos reference. If you guys get it, fine. If not, I don't want to actually hit you. It's just part of the joke. Have fun. I know personal projects are stressful sometimes because they become real, but the whole point of personal projects is to have fun, is to understand yourself, is to do whatever the fuck you want to do. Because nobody's gonna go to your room again and be like, I don't know, like your sister not gonna come like, hey dude, that shit's not working, you should change it. Like, no, just kick them out and you can do whatever you want. Understand also, like, maybe your project is just for you, and if you put it out, maybe people don't resonate with it, but that doesn't mean it's bad, or it doesn't mean like it's not worth it. It's worth something to you, and that should be, I think, the first thing when going into a personal project, which is like you should enjoying doing it and learning. That's what I learned while doing the meme page. The second one is collaborate. A single star doesn't form a constellation. The industry is changing. I do foresee like the studios are gonna make AI the thing. They're gonna be pushing movies out, and they think it's gonna look cool, but it's not. And there's nothing we can do about it. But what we can change, what we can actually, do something about it, is how we treat each other, how we work together, how we use our skills together to create something that we want to see out there. Eventually their ideas are gonna suck, and they're gonna come back to us and be like, hey, what you guys are doing differently. And at the end of the day, it's just like, we had an idea, we like to collaborate, we like to work together. Animation is collaboration. The animation doesn't exist without it. And even when people do a whole movie by themselves, good for them. Like great for them. I'm happy for them they were able to do it. But um being part of a team and working together into something, that's something that not a lot of like other projects can do. So collaborate with the peers next to you, collaborate with the people that see what you see, and build something with it, maybe it's just like a small short. Maybe you guys are just doing like, I don't know, screenings to show up other people's work and your work too. So um work together, inspire each other. Your biggest tool, not tool, but your biggest asset is your friend next to you, and you are theirs. So always be nice to your friends, always be nice to the people working around you, and don't be afraid to show your work too. That's what I learned from Faro. And pave your own road. Be you. I I don't think like I have the most unorthodox like how do you say this, like journey to animation. What I did, like it was more of like, I'm gonna do it my way and let's see if it sticks, they tell you not to do more than 50 pages, more than 10 pages in a pitch. I did 50. They tell you like, hey, you have to come from like a big school to actually make it in animation to have context. I only have one, and it was my teacher from college that got me got me the opportunity to apply to an internship. But then I made my way into Skydance, and then I made my way to at Nickelodeon, and now making my way somewhere else. I still don't know about it, but if you guys know anything about production jobs, let me know. But again, it's about doing it on. I don't want to say in your own terms, but your journey has to be dictated by you. Don't let others people tell you what to do in a, how do you say this, in a, I mean, if it's your mom telling you, hey, don't put your finger on the stove, then don't put it. But you should at least learn by yourself your mistakes. There's this phrase, I think it's from 31 Minutos too, which is like, I could build a museum filled with failures, uh, but I just keep working on it. I keep improving. I keep making better. And again, don't be afraid of fail. Don't be afraid of like not trying, because though that fear is not gonna take you anywhere. Beyond fear, destiny awaits. That's one of the phrases from Dune. And I'm like, put yourself out there, reach out to people, talk to other people, talk to your peers, work in go to like events from Viva La Animación, like, because the first one we went to, it was like 10 people, and I'm like, I was expecting a bit more. I want to see everybody over there, because at the end of the day, there's nothing else for us. Like collaboration, community. And even now with this, like, I don't want to go to political, but a new terms are coming up, and we only have each other. So um support each other, be nice to each other, and do your own thing together. So be nice. And that's pretty much it. And I just want to mention my journey so far. Meme page, marketing, FARO, Mighty, Skydance Animation, Nickelodeon, Asumecha. And that was all the way from 2019, 2020 to 2024. This is a 5-year career. Before that, I was doing nothing with my life. I want to say nothing, as in like I was just in college. I was doing graphic design. I was pretty good at it, at conceptualizing, not designing. Designing, I was all right. But like, because of the pandemic, I realized what I wanted to do, and I went for it, and I didn't look back. And what comes next for me, 2025 and beyond, I am working in expanding the FARO initiative into doing like screenings, doing more events. I'm working on my pitch for the second pitch for Asumecha, and I'm working in something we called Iniciativa Quesaburro, which is basically, and just parenthesis here, a quesaburro is a burrito inside of a quesadilla, which is pretty famous in Tijuana. But it's basically, I've been meeting people from my home state, which is Baja California, throughout the world. Like at Pixelatl, I met some. Others I met them at Lightbox. Others in FARO because they went to the event. And I was like, you know what? I think we're 10 of us can come up with like a cool idea to make a short. So now that's what we're working on right now. So again, I was like, we are here. We kind of get everything what we're trying to do. So let's work together. Let's see what happens. And again, another advice. The only good project is a finished project. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be Oscar winning. It doesn't have to be the next, Spider-Verse. It has to be finished, because finishing a project is the hardest thing you can do. Focus on doing that. Keep your ambitions on check, in the way of, like, if you know you can only deliver like 1 minute of good animation, good quality, focus on that. Don't try to deliver a 7 minute or like a 30-minute episode if you're gonna get thin with it. I don't know the phrase for that. So finish your project, finish what you have to do, and then move to the second one. You can have projects in different stoves, and you can cook all of them at the same time, but at least make sure that all of them are gonna get finished. Because if they're not, then you're gonna stockpile like unbuilt Legos, and then you're gonna be like, you know what, I don't want to do anything. So finish your project, guys. Um, and thank you all for coming, and Valen Milen. Thank you very much for having me. I hope I made sense. Let me know if I didn't. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Perry. I really appreciate it. And I learned so much about like your not only your journey, but all the lessons that you learned. I think were really valuable for us here. And I think we can open up to some questions. Does anyone have any questions for Perry? Oh, everyone's saying thank you. If you
Put it in the
want to,
comments.
you can say it out loud, or you could put it in the chat, by the way. Everyone's still saying thank you to you, Perry. I don't know if I had like a question so much, but I think one of the really good takeaways that you had. Okay, someone Emmy asked, when you opening your own studio, dude?
I thought he was like coming up with my question. When am
I'll
I? When am
absolutely.
I? Oh yeah. I keep telling people, hey, we should build a studio, but they keep telling me, dude, do you know how much work that is? And I'm like, I know, but it could be fun. That goes to Romina. Um, I think I'm planning to build a pseudo studio in a way to help me to put like everything, to give structure to the pitch I'm developing, because I want to develop it in my own terms. Because I think at this point in my life, I'm able to like know the process of pre-production, because I've been working in pre-production for 2D for a while. So I might be starting a studio soon. More as in like just to get everything in order. But I would love to have. I mean, this is everybody's dream, but like something like Cartoon Saloon or like Ghibli, in the way of like not in quality, but like in the stories they're telling. Because Cartoon Saloon and Ghibli, both of them, they don't look anywhere else for stories. They look inside of them, and that's what I want to do. Like that's what I'm interested in. Like, yeah, we can do, as a Mexican, yeah, I can do you a show about like space Vikings, and I'd probably be good, because Mexicans are funny. But I'm like, I rather that be told by somebody else. I want to tell stories that only I can tell based on my perspective. And I think, for example, that's something that Jorge Gutierrez does very well. Like he has this phrase like make your own enchilada, like do it your way and do it good. Be honest about yourself. So um yeah, hopefully soon. That's the answer.
Yeah, we have some other questions coming in now. Ryan asked, is this going to be like 20 minutes or an hour long, or serialized or episodic?
I would like it to be a 20-minute or a movie. That's how I want it. Either this or that. I don't want it to be like an hour long animation, because then I get bored personally. I like a 22-minute, and it's gonna be serialized. Even though I okay, this is a how do I say this, like a tip for pitching a show in the studios in the United States. And another parenthesis here. Pitching in Europe is completely different. So if you ever got the opportunity to go on an event in Europe, you should definitely go. Here in the States, at least for like big studios like Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, they are looking for episodic shows that at least for Nickelodeon, actually, they're looking for episodic shows. But for example, I didn't want to do an episodic shows because I don't find it fun to work in. But I was like, okay, I am pitching to Nickelodeon. I'm gonna then pitch the episodic version, no, the episodic traits of my show. So, for example, if you look at Avatar, it is one of the most serialized shows ever, but it's also kind of episodic. Almost every episode of Avatar is like Aang, Sokka, and Katara are on top of Appa looking for like a waterbender or like some new adventures, and they go to a new town, they run into trouble, and then the Fire Nation comes, and then they save the city, and they escape. That's basically almost like half of the Avatar episodes in a heavy serialized show. So I focus on that on while writing Asumecha in the way of when rewriting Asumecha. I'm like, if they want to see episodic, what's the episodic aspect of my show? And for example, my answer to that was everything's normal in the city. The city gets attacked by a sidestepper. Valeria wants to solve her way. Arturo wants to solve it his way. They find a third solution in the middle, and then they defeat the giant, the monster, and that's gonna give them a clue to what happened to their friend. That's basically every episode, and that's what they're interested in. So also like understanding who you're pitching to. Okay, and here another advice. I'm full of advice. I've been through a lot of stuff. Um, don't swim against the current, or like don't be a contrarian just because you can and because you want to, because that's not gonna, I don't want to say it's gonna get you nowhere, but you're gonna be fighting every single battle. You don't need to fight every single battle. As in, like, for example, they keep telling me like change the name of Asumech. Well, actually, that's a bad example. In the way of like, there's already an establishment to put shows out. Unless it's a hill you really want to die in, then go for it. If not, just at least be, how do you say this, like open to hearing suggestions. For example, again, now this is a good example now with paraphrase, is that people keep telling me to change the name of Asumecha because English speakers, they were not gonna get it. And I was like, I don't care. If they can say Kimetsu no Yaiba, whatever Demon Slayer is, if they can say all these names in Japanese, they can say it in Spanish. And if that's the hill my show is gonna die in, I am very happy for that. Because I'm like, this the whole name of the whole, and for guys who don't know the phrase, Asumecha is like saying, "Oh my gosh," in Spanish. I don't know. It's something like that. I was gonna for a moment I was gonna translate Asumecha into "Oh my butt," but then I didn't like it. It stayed Asumecha. So again, don't swim against current unless you're really gonna die in that hill. And for example, for me, it paid out because everybody keeps saying my name is really funny, and I'm really happy they like it because I was not gonna change it. So yeah.
Thank you, Perry, for that. That's really good to know. Jimena Castro asks, are you planning to go to other conventions/expos?
Yes. I would say to you, not you, Adela, to everyone in general. That go to as many event as you can as a junior, like as a student, as a just starting your career, because you're gonna meet a lot of people. And I'm not saying only going to Lightbox. I would say if you live like on the West Coast, East Coast, I don't know US geography. If you live next to New York City, go also to the Ontario Film Festival. If you live in Mexico, in South America, go to Pixelatl, go to Ventana Sur, go to Premios Chile Monos, go to Quirinos if you live in Spain, go to like Cartoon Springboard if you live in Europe. And don't only make it your pilgrimage to Lightbox. And I will say this, and I know it's getting recorded, but you are definitely not gonna get something out of Lightbox in a professional level unless you're very, I mean, I would say like your luck over there is very, very small because they're meeting thousands of people. It's pretty cool if you go and meet people over there you already know, like you go meet your favorite artists. You might run into like the panelists outside, but it's a lot of people there. And if you don't know anybody inside, it's going to be really hard to meet people in the industry. That's why I recommend, if you have the possibility, to go to Pixelatl, because it's fewer people from the industry. There's a lot of, in Pixelatl, the thing is there's a lot of fans, but they're not interested in animation per se. So it's a great opportunity to meet people in the industry, and they're going to remember you because they usually have a great time at Pixelatl. And then you're going to be like, hey, I met you at Pixelatl, and they were like, oh yeah. And that's pretty much it. So go to Pixelatl, go to other smaller animation events, because that's usually the point where like it's like the sweet spot between like not that many people that you can actually have a conversation with people in the stage. So yes, I am planning to go to as many conventions and expositions I can. I'm trying to go to Annecy, so let's see if that plans out.
Oh my gosh, wait, are you going to Annecy this year? Are you?
I am trying to go to Annecy
Oh my
more as in
God,
like a
I'm gonna try
tourist.
to go this year. And for those who don't know, I'm in Paris living here right now. So I'm definitely gonna try to go to Annecy this year.
If I was Adela, I would not try. I would definitely go.
Well,
You
I,
know,
I think
I understand it's expensive because it is fucking expensive.
I think
But
it's cheaper for students, so I think,
well,
but
I'm
then
not.
there's like the hotel and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I would say like she's already there. You're already there. You should definitely go. The 2 years you're there, you should definitely go.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, and also for example, for me, it gets to the point that I really don't go into the talks no much because they usually are kind of like the same ones. But you should definitely go to every single one you can. It's like going to school. It's pretty cool. And basically, you're going to school with people that are also interested in the subject. So that's really cool about conventions and expos.
Yeah, and you can even go to like getting more questions, but you can even go to, even smaller events that maybe like workshops or like local hangouts. Like even here, they're just a bunch of students are starting up like Paris sketching days, like a bunch of animation students are just starting them up on their own. So like those are people that you could collaborate in the future with. So just advice, like put yourself out there on these littler events too.
Yeah, and I want to say I know a big part of the industry are introverted, and I know it's hard, and I know it takes a second to get used to a lot of people, but it's a at least you should try it. At least you should go out. At least you should try make how Adela was saying, like some kids in Paris. I don't know if they're in Paris, but they should try to make draw. Let's draw together, and you should definitely go to those events because those are the peers you're gonna be ending up working with. For example, me right now, I am working with some friends to do some screenings in Tijuana just for animation, just so we can get people together to talk about animation for 2 hours in Tijuana when there's basically nothing. So and eventually, I know it's not nothing like big is gonna come out of it, but the community is gonna start getting moved, and that's the cool shit. That's the cool part. Yeah, that's it. That's the last for that question.
Let me see. Got a couple here. Wait, scrolling up. Okay. Jose Evia says, do you have any recommendations to switch from another career to like writing, like the way you started in graphic design and then wrote Asumeka?
um, I would not. I would not. Okay, so my career change was from graphic design into animation production animation. In the way of like, I'm not a writer yet, and if you're gonna do a career switch, think about it first. Okay. This is how getting into the industry is gonna be the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life. You might sacrifice everything, give all the time you get, and probably it's gonna take you forever. But you still gotta try. You still gotta try to put your foot in the door. But if you're trying to do a career switch, I would say in your job and develop your skills for animation further. You know, like if you, for example, if I for me,
Yes.
yeah, for example, for me, production is that opportunity to develop my skills while working. You know, I get to also, guys, production is a great place to start, and you should definitely consider it because you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna learn a lot of doing that. Just because you're not in this industry doesn't mean you're not an artist or you're not a writer or you're not like a designer. But how do you say this? Be mindful of it in the way of like it's gonna take a lot of time, and there's in animation, unfortunately, they reward a good job with you needing to find another job. You know, like, oh, you worked for 6 months, you delivered everything on time, but there's not gonna be another season because you know tax write-offs or whatever. So as a gift, you have to look for another job. So unless you're ready to make that jump, I would say stay in your job, but not to like how do you say forever or anything, because then that will eventually not work out for you. But stay in your job as much as you can to develop your personal skills and what you want to do and be really good at it, and then and not then while applying to jobs. And once you get to that one, then do the career search. Don't quit your job and then do the career, because you don't know how much time it's gonna take, and then you're gonna in if you don't get have enough luck, you're gonna end up sacrificing animation because you have to eat and have a roof on top of your head. So I would say that.
Perry, I just need to back you up on that. I mean, I'm a lawyer who's in animation now, but even then, I didn't leave law right away, and I still haven't really left law because it's also like something I do. But yeah, it took a while. When I started, I had no experience, nothing. I just knew I loved animation, but I started taking like night classes at SVA when I was in law school and just kind of built it up from there. And now I'm like here, like I've thrown myself in, but yeah, it takes a long time, so don't feel like
There's no rush.
yeah, there's no rush. I would say Lindsay, this kind of goes into Lindsay's question, and I'll read the other questions, don't worry. But how do you find time to balance working full-time job, working on your project, learning new skills, and keeping yourself motivated? Just from you could answer, Perry, but just for myself, it's a lot. And I won't say it was easy all the time, but it's just, I think if you, at least for me, if you had that end goal that keeps you motivated, like that dream thing or that end goal of being in animation somehow, I think that's at least what kept me going when I thought I was too old, or I thought like, oh, like I'll never do anything, or I'm not good enough. Everyone draws so much better than me. It's sort of like as long as you hold that, whatever your motivation is, I think that's what's gonna keep you going. But Perry, you can talk.
No, no, no. I mean, that's part of it, and
Yeah.
I would also add like find balance, sacrifices. You have to make sacrifices. You have to make choices. For example, I love playing video games. I love playing Overwatch. I have probably 1,000 hours, maybe more. I love watching movies. I like watching shows. I like going back to TJ. But that is time I could be using it in working my projects. And it got to the point to me right now where um I rather be reading like something that I know it's gonna help me for my project and use it as my free time. Like for example, I want to watch TV and I could watch I love cooking shows, so I could watch I could also watch Gordon Ramsay's Nightmare Kitchen because I do like him yelling at people like you suck, dude. And they're like, yes, I suck, but I'm gonna be better, and they turn out better. Or I could watch, Keep Your Hands Off Asoken, and I could learn something from the way they do animation. I can watch Akira and be like, how the fuck did they pull that out? And that your brain's gonna start, thinking about it. And then when you're doing your show, you're gonna be like, oh, we need to solve this in a specific way. And you can be like, oh, I remember in Akira, they did this and this and that, and then you can apply it to your show. So for your response is like, I'm trying to like curate my time in a way. Like I spend the time which with persons I really want to spend it. I want to watch movies. I know I'm gonna get something out of it. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes I'm just watching TV with my family, and that's all right. But I would say, you hi Jackson. Um, at the end of the day, it's sacrifices and choices, and yeah, Evangelion, it goes a long way. Sacrifices and choices is what's gonna make you form your career, and also mistakes, unfortunately. um how to say this, like, also understand, like, you know, I'm not gonna get into it, but if things don't work out, just keep going, and you'll find the time eventually. If you want to do it, you'll eventually find the time. I heard someone saying like like, if you really like your project, you should be devoted to it in a way of like, I don't want to say die for your project. You, for example, you can see people like the guy that did Berserk. I don't know his name, but he was devoted to the point that it killed him. Like, it killed him, that devotion to his work. And that's not healthy, you know, like he couldn't even got to finish his manga because of it. So I would say, like, have a life and work balance. I still go out and walk. I still go out and to parties, like, all the time, like as much as I can, because those are the experiences that are gonna shape your shows and your projects. And for example, I want to just briefly mention like the Full Metal Alchemist creator. I don't know her name either. I'm really bad with names. But for example, she took a trip to England to see the architecture, to meet people, to do research. Always do your research, guys. Research is the cornerstone of every good project. If not, if you don't believe it, look at Emilia Perez, because it sucks. Do your research, and she did her research, and that's why she was like talking to people with disabilities, talk to war veterans, and all that stuff that she researched. She put it on her show, and it feels authentic because she did the hours and she did the time. So do you know how to say this, like, do your research, and all that stuff, and be devoted to your show and to your projects. And there's two things. I am not religious in any way, but there's a song in the Heights, which is sang by the abuela, paciencia y fe. That's all you need in animation: patience and faith. Patience in like the hours you're putting to your work, patience in like learning, patience into like all the stuff that gets you there, and faith in what you're doing, faith in the people working with you, because you got to be the first person to believe in your project. Yes, your mom thinks it's cool, your friends thinks it's the best thing ever, but if you don't believe in your project, nobody else will. So be the first person to believe in your project, and that means like believing, also like trusting the process, you know, like be proud of your like rough drafts and all that stuff, because you know it's gonna get better. It can only get better, you know. So you gotta keep working on it, have faith in what you're doing, and have faith in yourself, you know. I know, you know, for example, I know like sometimes that is pretty hard, but that's why you have friends, and friends are gonna tell you, hey dude, this works, or maybe it doesn't, but I have faith in you because I know you. And if nobody has faith in you, I will have faith in you. So keep doing what you're doing, and, you know, keep working.
Thank you, Perry. Evelina asked, with how much you've learned, is there anything you would have done differently for Mecha or would do for a future project?
I think, as a, not for Mecha per se, but if I could, you know, do something differently in my life, is that I was like, be more conscious about the things that I like and I don't like, in the way of like, go read more stuff, read more books, watch more movies, you know, maybe don't dedicate more than 500 hours to a video game, you know, like Destiny or like Overwatch, in the way of like, yeah, it's fun to have it and it's fun to be playing all that stuff. But if I could do something again, is like I would read more, I would watch more movies, I would watch read more manga. Like before I read the Akira books, and I'm not bragging, this is actually, I feel really ashamed of it. I haven't even finished the book since probably like high school or middle school. Like, and for me, looking back, for me, those are years I could have spent, you know, reading, you know, and I don't mean like reading like a book, you know, but I mean like going like reading manga and magazine and learning about other stuff and reading about like all this and like expand your I would have tried to expand more my view of things. That's the only thing I would have done differently, because everything else just comes with experience, you know, like yeah, maybe I would write differently, maybe I would like, how do I say this, approach the project in a different way, but I can only get to that point of doing differently once I messed up or once I committed a mistake. So and that's something that can be fixed for me. I don't want to say I wasted my time, you know, from like, I don't know, 18 to 20, 24, 23. But it was just like, I wish I spent more time focusing on understanding what I like and what I don't like, so my projects can have a life on their own. So yeah, pretty much it.
Dang, that's deep, Perry.
Get deep really fast.
Nikki Nikki said, as someone who has social anxiety and not sure if I'm bothering someone, what advice would you give for how to ask for advice slash critique from peers that you're not that close with?
Okay. I'll be honest with you guys. I am a really bad student. And the only way sometimes I could get my grades up is because I became friends with the teacher, and they were late. They were, how do you say this? They would check my homework after the due date because they like me. And because of that, I think I developed a way to like understanding people and like, you know, genuinely care about them. And then you know, reach out to them and be like, hey, how do you say this? Like, what do you think of this? So what I'm trying to say with this is like, if you're gonna, I would definitely try to build first a relationship with someone in the way of like, maybe, you know, they post something, you give it a like. Once after maybe 5 or 6 like, they're gonna start noticing that you're liking everything they put. So that at least gonna give you something to talk about. I would say try to find something in common, or like how do you say, like uh complimenting something they did. Like for example, um that's what I like to do. For example, when I'm interviewing, I go through their link. For example, like I'm gonna interview with Adela. Adela's gonna like hire me or something. I will go to her page, and oh, turns out she was a photographer for the Jonas Brother concert. I don't know. But she'd like taking pictures on her free side, and she died. Did that. And then during the interview, I will be like, "Hey Adela, I saw you like the Jonas Brothers. My favorite song is Love Bug. So now we have something in common, and we can start building. And then I can ask her the question. And what I'm trying to say with this is like, um, at least try to build some kind of relationship first, because that's gonna be easier for them to reach out to you and say yes. If not, I would also um talk to your friends and like, hey, I work in this. Do you have somebody to recommend you to me? For example, like, hey Adela, I'm a writer. Do you know any writers I could meet? And Adela's gonna be like, oh, you know what? I know Angela. Angela's a writer. Maybe you should guys connect. And then Adela is gonna be like, hey, these are my friends. Talk to them. And that's one part of the advice. The second part of the advice is like, nobody knows you, nobody cares, in a way of like, for when you get a message from Instagram, oh, I don't know, like uh I don't know, like Dragon 95 sent you a message, hey, can you look at my pitch? And they're gonna be like, you're gonna be like, no. But and that's it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Or maybe they will be go like, hey, maybe, yeah, I'll read it for you, in a way of like, one of the best. Okay, I think I'm projecting a bit, but I'm gonna still gonna do it. During my first year in here in LA, I was really shy to talk to people, believe it or not. And I would see this artist, her name is Natalie, And table she will sit in, she will talk to everybody in the table, and she made it sound so easily, and she was friends with everyone on the studio. And then one day I was like, hey dude, how do you do it? How do you talk to everybody and, you know, um and be nice to them, and then they're inviting you to their parties and like to lunch and anything? And she just looked at me and she was like, don't take yourself too seriously, like there's not like, how do you say this, like just go and do it, like you might get rejected, and that's part of life, that's part of animation rejection. Like before I got into like Skydance and Mighty, I got rejected 100 times. As to Mecha has been rejected 100 times and will be rejected 100 times more, but you gotta keep trying, and you only need one person to say yes to their to your like for your to your ask. Like you can reach out to a bunch of, like, if you want to be a storyboard artist, reach out to all the storyboard artists. There's a bunch of them here, talk to them. Maybe one's going to tell you yeah, and that's the only person you need, one at a time, that believes in you and at least give you the opportunity. For example, that's why I like to give like talk to people then when they reach out to me, because I'm like, probably I'm the only person who's gonna say yes. And maybe if I give them the right advice, which I always try to do, maybe they'll find it useful and that's gonna influence their career and they're gonna make it. So, try to reach out to as much people as you can. Be genuine about it. Don't never bullshit people, because they're gonna know when you're doing it. And just be nice. Again, just be nice. And I know social anxiety is a thing, but again, beyond fear, destiny awaits. And I cannot. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys how I got my job at Nickelodeon. At this point in my life, I was really, I like talking to people, but if I have a friend next to me, if I had to talk to somebody else, I would get really like nervous and like, oh, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna think I'm like the worst person in the world and all that stuff. So I was a Pixelatl, and I saw somebody walking from left to right, and then I saw her name, and I was like, oh, I wonder who this person is. And I typed my name in LinkedIn, her name in LinkedIn. Turned out she was the senior recruiter for Nickelodeon, and she was walking towards a door that you can't pass unless you have like a visitor, a pass from like a guest pass. And after that you can talk to them. So I could see like a time event, like in video games, like the clock running out. And I was like, in my brain, I'm like, dude, this is the moment. If I really want something, I should go for it. So I just ran behind her, and I was like, hey, Melanie, how's it going? And she's like, do I know you? I'm like, no, I just looked you up on LinkedIn. But hey, I'm Perry. This is my card. This is what I do. I want to be a PA at Nickelodeon. Um, would you be interested? And she was like, actually, we are looking for PAs, and we'll let you know. So, and a month later, I got a call to interview for Nickelodeon. Just because in that moment I decided to go talk to her. If that wasn't the case, probably I would probably still be at a Skydance. So don't be afraid to go and reach out to people. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
And I will say, Nikki, too, that you can always reach out to us, like me or like Chazelle and other people who maybe not necessarily, yeah, or just even people who aren't necessarily even in animation, but you know their judgment and things like that. That's also really good. And and just to follow up on something you said earlier, Perry, I really like that you said that, when people are giving you their honest feedback and like, that they're trying to help you and stuff, it's like, don't take it like personally. It's just they're also trying to get you to that next level, and sometimes it's maybe you don't agree with it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with every single thing they said, but at least it's coming from that place and you could take like what you need and stuff like that. I think, I don't know, I really like that you said that, Perry, because like even today I was pitching that short film that I'm working on here at Goblin. And I had to pitch it again to like the grand poobah of the school. And we were just sitting together and he gave me a lot of feedback. Like he loved it, but like there was just one part that he wanted me to work on. And he thought that he was giving me a hard time, but I was like, no, like this is really good feedback, because like I need to hear this stuff or then, it's not going to be better. So you kind of need to hear those kind of different opinions at least to take your
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, and it's like, again, and they're giving you bad advice. you're gonna notice it's bad advice because usually it's just like
Right.
incoherent like comments. Um, I'm reading that, so I'm gonna answers Cecilia's message of like,
Yeah, I was gonna read that one.
okay, yeah.
Oh, I can read it out loud again. Cecilia asks, how did you deal with comments such as, if you're willing to work as a graphic designer slash animator, there's a place waiting for you at McDonald's, and stuff like that, underestimating the actual work and effort that it takes.
I think that's part of art in general. Um, look at AI. You know, their biggest sell point is like art is expendable, art is cheap, art is free. And if you don't give yourself that that respect to yourself into what you're doing, then it's gonna be really hard. Um, I started as a graphic designer, and when I was coming up as a professional, Canva was coming out, and they could make basically a logo in 5 minutes. And all the graphic designers in like Facebook pages and stuff were like going, dude, we're gonna lose our job. This is bullshit and all that stuff. And I'm like, as a graphic designer, if you are, how do you say this, like, um, if your worst enemy is Canva, I don't want to, I mean, it's gonna sound bad, but like, I don't think you're a good graphic designer. If your work can be put out by a computer, then why are you here? In the way of like, why I hire a graphic designer, why would they hire artists, and why they should be, why you should be. What they don't get is like, it's your ideas, it's your perspective, it's the way you do the work. That's why you hire a graphic designer. Because if you only want a logo, yeah, I can go to Canva. But if you want something else, something real, you go to the person. And these kind of comments will always be there because they don't have nothing else better to do. They have never tried to be an artist. They have never tried to do a painting, or like write a poem, or write a diary, or write like a thought they had in their brain. You know, during the pandemic, I had this like identity crisis too, which I was like, I'm only consuming, like I watch movies and I play video games. When am I creating? Because I don't know how to draw, I don't know how to play an instrument. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start writing and see what it takes me. And that gave me a whole perspective on like the way people treat shows. And I will give, for example, like Primos, for example. Everybody fucking hated Primos without giving it the chance, without giving understanding that this is somebody's work that they, if you try to write a show, how, no matter how easy it is, you will understand, you slightly start to understand the immensity of putting a show out into the world, and then for the world to destroy it without giving it a chance. Like, at least let the show come out and then we'll talk about it. I don't like criticizing work before it comes out. And for example, I fucking hate episode 9 of Star Wars, and I passionately will like talk bad about it. But it's just like, because how do I say this? It's because like, but aside from that, I understand the artist and the work behind it, and I'm talking beyond that too. So how do I say this? Like, I think it's part of the culture in general too. Like, they're not willing to create, they're not willing to write, they're not willing to, how do I say this? Like, and you would see it. I hate Mexican um animation groups or like Latin American groups because they talk shit about animation most, like, how do you say this, like, more than they like to talk about what they like. And I'm like, you guys are talking to we are talking too loud for like a sector of the world that barely has any animation in it. Like, why can't we just tell our stories? If they knew how hard it was, I bet they wouldn't do those kinds of comments. Because again, we have nothing. There's barely any, how do I say, like, industry for us. So I think that's also part of it. If we keep doing our work, for example, like, if you keep putting your stuff out there. Oh, and I want to give a parenthesis here. Like, somebody was posted on their close friends, like, oh, I drew this comic, but I don't know if I should post it. And then it was a comic about ADHD. And I'm like, dude, if you're doubting about it, then it's more reason for you to post it, because that's how you resonate with people. And they're like, oh, I don't know if my my fan base or like my followers will like it. And then I'm like, dude, this is your Instagram page. This is not their page. This is what you do. This is how you build yourself, how you put yourself out there. And if you're afraid to do it, that is fine. And if you don't want to do it, that's also fine because it's personal. But if you're afraid to like alienate somebody in your fan base, then they're not your fans, or like they're not your followers, or they're not the people that. When I follow an artist, I follow them because they're them and the work they put out. Like I'm not gonna stop following them because, oh, you posted about like your favorite, yeah, you're posted about something like I don't like, then I'm gonna start following you. Oh, maybe you are um este maybe you're gonna talk about your experience working in a Chinese restaurant. I've never been to a Chinese restaurant, so I'm gonna delete you. No, it doesn't work like that. But for example, if you post something super personal, like for example, guys, my favorite episode of this show is this episode, and I'm gonna be like, holy shit, dude, that's my favorite episode too. I think we're best friends, and that's how you start building our community. And again, don't care. Why do you care about them too? Like I get it. Sometimes it's your own family. My family didn't like I was studying graphic design until like 6 months in. But as soon as you start putting stuff out and they understand like, hey, maybe this is going somewhere, that's when they start like not saying stuff. So don't worry about them. And if it's your family, well, tell them they can go watch something else, and you just be happy with what you do yourself. And that's it.
Wow, thank you so much. That was our final question. So once again, thank you so much, Perry. And we'll be posting this recording on YouTube soon. And Nikki will have notes that she'll be passing around on the Discord server. But yeah, I think I just want to say thank you so much, Perry, for sharing your journey. And it's
Yeah.
so inspiring just to see where you came from and what you're doing now. I can't wait to see Mecha coming alive. I don't know. You'll have to let us know all the updates and when that happens.
Yes. Yes, of course. And also, one last advice. Um, Step out of your comfort zone. Like go out, go do stuff you never thought you were gonna do. I don't like rom-coms, but then one day I was like, if I was gonna do one, how would I do it? And then a really cool idea came out, and I'm like, hey, maybe I'm gonna do this for another show. Like I hate episodic, and I like, and it's not that I hate, like I don't like doing episodic. But then I was like, hey, what if I do an episodic show based on like on a space dog and her space friend? And then it came out pretty cool. So I'm like, just push yourself out there. As not everybody can just jump out of the plane. Sometimes they have to go to a slide and stuff. But if put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone, and have fun, be yourself. There's nothing else to do in this world, I think. And also be nice to each other. That's it.